We're really excited to bring her on for this month to talk about matriarchy because she's built so much community. She is one of the matriarchs of Nashville's creative community. And with that, I'm just going to gather my things and welcome Libby to the Creative Morning stage. Everybody give her a little round of applause. Come on down.
Thank you. Congratulations, Colin.
Thanks.
And
Thanks,
congratulations, Christie.
Thanks.
I'm excited for you guys. That was really illuminating.
Yeah.
Yeah, the lightning round. I chose all the same ones you did.
Right. Feel very
soul
cool.
sisters. I know.
You gotta go savory. I feel strongest about my popcorn.
Yeah. But see, this is the deal. I was thinking about. It was like, no. I split the difference. I like kettle corn. So you get both.
I like your
All
style.
about finding ways to, bridge the gap there.
Yeah. So, bridging the gaps. I mean, you're a huge part of the Nashville community, but even though Colin just gave you an intro, tell us about you. Hello. Nice to see you.
Okay. Nice to see you too. Very excited to be here. I grew up in East Tennessee in a town called Cleveland. My family's been there for 200 years. Yeah, so it's like very ingrained in the East Tennessee culture. But I always dreamed about being in New York. So when I was 25, after I started my career in journalism at my hometown newspaper, after graduating from college, I moved to New York and got my master's in NYU in a program called Cultural Criticism, which was brand new at that point. It was for people who wanted to write about culture and the arts, but it was a very academic program. And I was thinking about matriarchy and thinking about feminism. I was like, that's really where I've always been a feminist, but I got like my academic, institutional knowledge from that program. And kind of taken it forward. But then I worked at the New York Post for 7 years. I was the fashion editor there. I had this super glam job, but it never made me happy. Like it was fun, and I got some great experience, and it really has defined my career up until now. It's allowed me to do all the things that I do now, but like I felt like something was missing. And whenever I came to Nashville, I felt at home. And so I moved here 17 years ago, 2004, pre-It City, and was really lucky with the timing. It's like all my friends were like, well, you're committing career suicide. And I'm like, now I feel like a genius.
I mean, success is the best revenge. We've all heard that. And so you moved here a while ago. Tell us about your home. I know it's been profiled before. It's incredible. Colin already said we got to have drinks there, and it was just absolutely beyond. So the space you've built is wonderful.
Oh my
God.
God.
About that. Like you mentioned something about you have like a moon room and like sun room.
Yeah.
And so like balancing your house. Can
I know.
You talk about all of that?
So much like, interior design is my mother's family's business, has been since the 40s, and my aunt's ASID. Like I grew up around designers and around an old house that was constantly changing. Wallpaper. My mother's kitchen has 5 different wallpapers in it. So I was really, I've always had this creative streak. So when it came time for me to be able to, when I realized based on equity pretty much in East Nashville where I live, I could build the house that I wanted to or add on to my existing house. I added 1,300 square feet, and I had the general shape of it, which is like an L, which I didn't think about, L Libby, but anyway, it's shaped like my name.
Perfect.
And I knew generally what I wanted, but like on the inside, the details kind of came together in a really surprising way. The suns and the moons, like my bedroom vaults to 15 feet, and on either side, there are these rose windows, the moons. And so the bedroom's kind of a moon room. And then on the front of the house, there's a sunburst in the eave. And there's also a purple metallic sun on the closet. Like, there's this long 22-foot bank of closets, and there's wood applied that looks like a big big sunburst. So I don't know, there are a lot of dichotomies, that are built in that I didn't really realize I was doing when I was doing it. That's kind of the fun of design, I think.
Yeah, I mean, you've got this foundation of it, and so it just sort of, then you're like, oh yeah, I guess I do know things. It just manifested out there because it's so ingrained in you.
Yeah, and like interior, I was telling somebody this yesterday, like, fashion is my background, but like I grew up with an antique dealer mom, and in this really cool house that was changing all the time, and around antiques and design and wallpaper. That was one of the specialties.
Did your mom like collect anything like as a dealer, like
Well,
stuff
she
she
was-
couldn't let go? I
Yeah,
have a
it's-
friend's mom who's an antique dealer, and she has more Bakelite than
Oh my
anyone.
God, that's really cool.
Oh yeah.
Mom specialized in wicker, and not, Pier 1 wicker. This was like Haywood Wakefield, late 1800s, and Deco wicker, like pretty much 30s and before. So I grew up going to flea markets every weekend and going to pickers. Pickers used to come to our house really early in the morning for her to pick things off of trucks. And like, I just became obsessed with it. I've got two younger sisters who, can definitely take it, usually leave it, in terms of the antiquing bug, but I love it. It's my favorite thing to do right now. And I've really like taken the fashion. I don't know. Right now, interior design is more interesting to me than fashion design.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, we did just spend a whole year at home. So
I think that has a lot to do
get
with it,
wanting
too.
to make your space
Yeah.
wonderful. Is there anything you did like as soon as you figured out like, oh, I'm going to be home for a while that you just like had to do?
Well,
to
the
your
timing
space?
was insane. The renovation took about 18 months, and I literally moved in. Like the tornado happened in East Nashville. I was still living at my sister's place, but kind of moving in. And the week after that, I moved into the new house, and then lockdown started. So I was in shock for a couple of months, I think. It was a lot. I turned 50 during that time, like, and I was going to have a big party, and I ended up just like all this stuff, like a cavalcade of stuff that was kind of falling on me. But ultimately, it was so nice to be in that space and to like really get to lean into it, nesting. And making this really special space for myself.
I think it's underrated, like especially like you
God.
said, you lived in New York before. I lived in New York too, and a lot of it is like you're only home to sleep. It's why like everybody can get away with having like teeny tiny spaces.
Yeah. Oh no, my bedroom is twice as big as my last apartment in New York.
Yeah, I think I can probably say the same thing. My last apartment in New York was a shotgun.
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard to tell
Yeah.
how big it actually was.
Yeah.
It's very narrow.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
But yeah, like having space in a yard last year was like really exciting.
It really was. So. It was nice. And like now having that patio where we had drinks, it's like, it's so nice. I'm entertaining more than I used to and feeling, that's kind of feeding my soul in a way that it hasn't in the past.
Yeah, I don't know. There's something to being a host. I think it's a really nice thing. I don't know if it's about being a girl or being a Southerner or somewhere in between, but like it's always been like a really big part, I think, of my own identity. Do you like consider yourself like a natural host?
That's a good question. No, I don't. And I think it's because, and I don't want to throw my mom under the bus here, but she was kind of a nervous hostess. Like wonderful parties, beautiful, but it was always very, she had to hit certain marks personally in order for her to feel really good about what happened. And like, I am trying so hard to take a lot of what she taught me about how to entertain, but to do it with a different kind of approach with more ease. And I'm an introvert. I've got social anxiety, which surprises people all the time. When I say that, but it's true. I kind of have to psych myself up to have people over. But when I do it lately, and I've been doing it a lot lately, like what we did, but also I had a big birthday party and dinner parties. It's so much fun. And I just try to like let myself enjoy it. But it's a practice. I have to practice doing that.
I mean, I don't think it's a bad thing to practice having parties. And
I know, right?
It's also just, exactly. I don't know. There's something about bringing people together.
Yeah.
And I mean, you've had your hand in so many different worlds, whether it's like the journalism stuff or the fashion stuff, or I'm sure with PR, lots of like really fun people. So it's an opportunity to sort of like, help people meet and gather and know people that you think they should probably know.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
That's kind of cool.
That's the thing. Like my career has been about, my career since I started the Callaway 5.5 years ago has been really focused on bringing people together. I think that's PRs and I kind of don't like using the term, but it's the only way to really get people to understand what I do.
Yeah.
I mean, I asked my parents the other day, I was like, what do I do? And my dad was like, I have no idea. And so
dad handles are weird though. Like I know. Colin asked me and I was like, oh, like I'm the senior designer, but like I just feel like I do more illustrating. So that's why I always like add it on. And so I don't know, what would you do you have a different title you'd rather give yourself?
I don't know. I'm kind of like a creative director,
Okay.
but like, and that's a really expansive way to look at it in terms of, you know, I'm driving the aesthetics of my company and the focus of my company, which right now I've kind of came back and like, I'm rethinking the clients I have, the kind of clients I want to do. And I want to think more about aesthetics. I want to do more design, more fashion.
Okay.
You know, that's really important. The hospitality is really, really fun.
Are these changes that happened like because of 2020 and just sort of like reevaluating everything?
Yeah, totally. Like on January 1st of 2020, I had 7 employees. And this time last year, I had none. I let everybody go last May. Yeah.
Rebuild?
Like, yeah. And like I had kind of thought about, it's funny, like some big changes happened in terms of the leadership within the company early last year that made me think like, okay, well, if I'm going to make a change, this is the time to do it. Do I just burn this MFer down, you know?
I mean,
and then COVID burned the MFer down for me. Yeah.
Fire is cleansing.
Exactly. Oh,
So.
totally. And it was a good thing, but I'm still figuring out like figuring out how to build back up.
Yeah. So you're choosing different kinds of clients now.
Exactly.
And do you have an ideal, like something you'd love to do or someone you'd love to work with?
Well, you know, I want to have the same kind of approach that I've had in the past. Something that hit me maybe 2 years ago was what I do really well is help small companies be big, look big, and become big. And I help big companies be small. And I use that just because I'm creating the
dichotomy.
Parallel, the dichotomy. But what that means is because of my background in fashion, these big luxury companies that I have relationships with, Hermes, Gucci, different Cartier, when they come to town, they now know that the Callaway does that kind of work. Like we're able to help them put on events. We get the right people there. And conversely, so we make them integrated. And then conversely, my passion and what I thought I was going to do from the beginning was work with small brands here, fashion brands specifically, and help them be big, help get them into a bigger space. And the thing that I realized pretty early on is you can't scale your own company working with small brands that are on a limited budget, So over the years, I had to seek out bigger clients just, to make the financials work. But I still have a real passion for working with small brands and helping them scale.
Yeah, no, it's really important, I think, like as creatives to sort of help other creatives. I feel like there's a lot of, walled gardenness to the creative world sometimes, where people are very like close to the vest about their clients and like their practices, which I've never really understood. Like I worked in events before in New York and everybody was always like keeping their lists, like who's coming secret, which I'm like, but why? Don't
I know
want everyone to be
ridiculous.
Everywhere and get to participate.
Ridiculous.
Yeah. So do you think we have like a pretty accessible creative community in Nashville, or do you think it's a little more walled? I mean, you've been in it for a while, so I don't know if that's
I think it's
as relevant
becoming more. I think people have realized, the last year in particular, what's happened with Black Lives Matter and before that, the Me Too movement. It's like people have realized that they have been more closed off than they thought they were. And even if we know that we believe, if we have expansive thinking in terms of inclusivity, we can still do better.
Yeah.
And no, I think that there are a lot of silos here. And, I would love to figure out ways to break that down. I see a lot of really great movement in that area in terms of people making efforts to be more integrated in their thinking. But we still have a lot of work to do.
There's always work to do.
And there is, but like, I love that the people are actually thinking about it now.
Yeah.
Equity.
Do you have any advice for like young creatives or people who are like just moving here and want to like get involved in the scene or anything?
I think take advantage of what's out there and just show up. That was the best, in Nashville, there's this West Side, East Side type thing, kind of West Side Story thing,
I know. Yeah. I used to be a West Side, Best Side, and now I'm on the South Side, which doesn't have any cool sort of.
And listen, look at me leaving out the South Side and the North Side.
We have the zoo. and a lot of taquerias.
You do.
So
you have some really,
our
really good ones.
point.
And my favorite ceviche ever, which is at St. Louis, Carniceria. It's like so good. Anyway, I just gave out some information there.
No, they're good. King Tut's also, if you're on the south side.
Yes, King Tut's is great. Lisa Donovan took me there. But anyway, like I was thinking, since I work with a lot of these luxury brands, there's a lot of money on the West Side. And I realized it was like, I have a very limited reach there. This is like 2 or 3 years ago, I realized that. Very limited contacts. So I talked to the fabulous Sylvia Rappaport, who's kind of like my fairy godmother. Aww. And, I was like, Sylvia, how do I get more involved in West Nashville? She was like, just show up. And it's brilliant. It's brilliant advice.
I mean, a lot of brilliant advice, I think, is wildly simple. And like, I don't know, especially it's very easy to get in your own head about showing up and like feeling like you don't belong.
Oh, totally.
So but once you're doing it, it has like all of that momentum to it.
Yeah. And you kind of have to take your ego out of it too, and of looking like you don't belong or whatever. And just like kind of acting like, fake it till you make it.
I get more simple good advice.
It's like, go in and act really confident, then go outside and be like, oh God.
Yeah, we did it. And then you sit inside and recharge for the next 3 days.
Yes, story of my life.
Yeah, but I mean, I think if we're gonna slide toward matriarchy, like a big part of being a matriarch is being someone who gathers and like brings together. Like you get to be like a little center of community. So it's good that you're like, encouraging going out and being part of things.
Yeah,
I think that's part of a role. Like, do you consider yourself a matriarch? Or
is it
weird that we put that title on you?
I was thrilled, a little confused, but thrilled, because it's like when I got the email from Colin, I was like, okay, when I think of matriarchs, and this is like using it as a noun.
Yeah.
When I think of matriarchs, I think of like a grande dame, somebody who's maybe the head of a family. She's, I think of somebody older and more experienced who has like this wisdom to impart. And I was like, well, I don't know. I also think about that person as a mother, and that's my own preconceived stuff. And I was like, well, I'm single and I don't have kids. How am I a matriarch? How does this work? And what I realized is that the whole concept, and this is not using it really, it's more of an adjective or an adverb, or a verb, like using matriarchy as an action in terms of gathering. It's more about that. It's more about like, being maternal in a certain way, but taking the part, not in a sexist way, but taking the parts of like feminine, about the feminine, and using them to create community. That's really what it is.
Yeah.
And there's a certain warmth, there's a certain comfort. And I think that like being able, I think
part of it is like based in being woman though, because like we have been granted the allowance to be like vulnerable and communicative. Like it is part of it. So obviously there's downsides to it where people are like, you're being sensitive or whatever. But because we are allowed to have those emotions, we can like bring people together, I think, differently than men could.
Yeah, no,
because like they wouldn't want to be as friendly and like loving and like appreciative, and like those are the things that are gonna make people want to be part of your community.
Totally. And like it's that kind of vulnerability is another word that I think really applies, and it also has a bad rap, because when I'm my most vulnerable is when I get the biggest reactions from people. I'm thinking social media wise, but also like writing I've done in the past. Like, when I admit things about myself, my fears, and or issues I've had in the past that I've learned to overcome, that's when people have the biggest reactions. And I'm really honest about depression and anxiety, which I've dealt with my whole life. I was anorexic when I was 19. I'm an alcoholic. I got sober 16 years ago, and still deal with depression issues. Last year I went through one of the worst depressions of my life. A lot of it was really circumstantial, but like I have a chemical imbalance, and I don't want people to be scared of that.
Yeah, I think it sort of takes some of the power away from things by like not having them be like secret or shameful.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's also just, I mean, no one wants to feel alone. So knowing that someone else has whatever they have, whether that's you know, past issues with substances or depression, or which is something that I think everyone, especially after last year, like I think one of the things I'm really hoping sort of lasts like post-COVID is like the okayness with mental health.
Totally.
And like talking about it, because last year, if anyone's like, oh, how are you? Nobody said they were fine.
No.
You couldn't. That would be terrible.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
So
Liars.
I'm really hoping we can maintain being like, you know, I'm not. Like, it's difficult.
I know, but it's so important to acknowledge that, I think.
Yeah.
And to be okay with it, and to, we're all very fragile. You know, life is very fragile. And that's something I think, being older and seeing my parents age, and, you know, seeing their friends die. Like my dad is not in great shape right now. And it's been like a big lesson in human frailty. And, you know, just how close we all are teetering on that.
Yeah.
Not to sound, you know, not to be a downer.
I mean,
but it's true. We're lucky.
It's part of being human.
It is part of being
acknowledging
human.
that temporariness.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
That's why we have to do our gathering.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. And I think that, and I'm feeling the anxiety about getting back into that, you know? It's like there was something nice, especially for an introvert, about like not having to have that kind of, you know, public schedule that my job requires me to have for a while. But now I'm excited to go out and have that same kind of interaction, but I'm nervous about it.
Yeah. Do you think you're going to gather differently, or like participate differently, I guess, after last year? Like, I feel like I have a much smaller social capacity than I did before. I'm like, ooh, I got 2 things this week.
I know, exactly.
Tired.
Like, oh. I hope that what people realize is you can say no. You know, it's like there is, or you can be too busy to do something. And it doesn't make you like a bad friend to the person, or it doesn't make you a bad community member. It's like, you need to take care of yourself.
It's another underrated thing.
It is. Sure. It is. And it's like I think a lot about, you know, the term self-care and defining that, like what that really means. And it's honestly different for everybody. Some people it's getting a pedicure. Some people it's like not going out on a weekend.
Yeah, I think it's good to know that. And I'm hoping that everybody sort of like got to know themselves a little better last year in terms of their own self-care.
Yeah.
Because it was really hard for everyone.
Yeah.
And so, especially because you had to be sort of a little more self-reliant and alone for at least part of it. And so knowing ways to sort of help yourself, I think are really important things to learn.
Yeah. And I think that like people use social media in a totally different way last year too. Learn to use it as a, you know, it's always been a place to gather and a place to communicate with a broader group of people. But for a lot of people, it was like their lifeline to outside. Yeah. You know? And
that's a weird thought.
I know it is, but it is what it, you know, it is. We were coming here. It's all gonna,
Yeah. I feel like I relied a lot on like older friendships last year. Like you were talking about like being a matriarch and thinking of like having a family and like the grand dames, but like I feel like there was a lot of chosen family last year, because it's, I don't know, sometimes I think it's harder to be vulnerable with like your real family. You're like, oh, we've got other relationship dynamics going on.
Yeah.
And so having this other family that you can sort of like gather around and be with, I think was really important for me last year.
Me too. And like, I think my friends, I realized how important they are, and God, they showed up, you know, they showed up in ways that like, it touches me. So sorry, it's hitting the microphone, guys. It touches me so deeply to think about like how quickly people came to me, literally were there in 5 minutes if I needed them, and to comfort me when I totally needed it. And, you know, people I didn't know that well even. And like, I hope I can be half as good of a friend as my friends have been to me. You know, I hope I can be like twice as good of a friend, but if I am half as good a friend, I'll be an amazing friend, because they just really all went out of their way to be. But I made new friends last year too.
I did too. It's weird to think about that. Like some relationships definitely got better last year. Obviously, I don't want to like repeat any of all of that anxiety and the other like bad stuff that came with it. But certainly some of my friendships deepened, or like new ones. Yeah. Just because of needing different things, I guess.
But like, I think my circle, agree, but it also became like the inner core, my people, they really proved that they're my people.
Yeah.
You know, That's important.
It is. I'm very curious, like what like makes up your tribe, like not necessarily like individual people, but like what is it that you're like hoping to sort of like surround yourself with more, whether that's like through friends or like you talked about like choosing different clients now and like those values changing like from a businessy standpoint. So
well, I think a lot of that comes from being in the middle of a midlife crisis, which I will totally fully admit.
Yeah, what do you need to be vulnerable about?
2018. I was talking to somebody about it the other day. I was like, I can almost identify exactly when it happened. But I kind of went through this like, oh my God, my life has been so incredible. I've never had a plan. So there's never been something to diverge from. You know, it's like I haven't ever messed up my life because I didn't have a plan. I don't have a
That's
plan.
kind of a great way of thinking about not having a plan. Because I feel like people get down on that a lot.
Exactly. I know.
Like, and creatives especially are like so non-linear.
Oh my God.
Like it's not like, oh, I will go to school for this amount of years and then I will do this and I will do this, where it's like
exactly.
And I think release into the world as a creative.
And it's like I'm 51 and like I'm kind of stuck between my parents' generation, which my dad was with the same law firm for 55 years, you know, and that's the way they think. And then, you know, this younger generation that is really thinking. I was talking to a childhood friend of mine came into town with her daughter who just graduated from high school, and we had breakfast yesterday and was talking to Cece, the girl, about, you know, I was like, God, you're so lucky to be entering the job market right now. And she was like, that's funny. I thought it was a bad time. And I'm like, oh, it's a terrible time. Horrible time to enter the job market. But it's also one of the most interesting times because there are no rules.
Truly.
You know, there really aren't. And I was like, your generation is going to redefine what work is, what it looks like, and how, because they're going to be more fulfilled, I guarantee you, than the generation before, than our generation, my generation.
I mean, I'm hoping also like the specialness of like again, like making sure you're happy in what you're doing, I think has been like increased in like value more in this current generation. And again, like the lack of, there's a different barrier of entry, I think, than there was before. Like it used to always be like, oh, like you go to college and then like you get a job. And that is not, again, it's like not as linear as I think it once was.
Yeah, I think that like the shared economy has done a lot to support that. And like just, you know, the digital economy has really changed the way people are able to make money and be expressive. And so I think it's going to be really interesting to watch this group emerge, you know, this generation emerge. But in terms of my tribe, and also thinking about how my business moves forward, well, my tribe is made up of, I mean, it's mostly like just kick-ass women, you know, and everybody I know, I'm friends with so many female entrepreneurs. And just organically, you know, I look around sometimes at these dinner parties I'm having, and like everybody around the table works for themselves or has a company, or they don't, maybe they work for somebody else. It's like, but they're all doing something creative and have really taken risks in order to fulfill themselves, which is really valuable to me. I'm not friends with people who don't do things, you know.
I think that's a solid policy.
Right? I think it is too.
But I mean, you want to surround yourself with people who have not necessarily the same values, but neighboring values, because again, like to be someone who wants to create and contribute, and so like having all those different versions around yourself. I love that you have so many like female entrepreneur friends, especially because I know traditionally there's not as many like C title women, you know, that's usually more of like a gentlemanly space.
Yeah,
so
totally.
Finding those people who you can have that relationship with.
Oh, totally. And like I have a group of women that we call it the BT, the Brain Trust.
Ooh.
And we're all, you know, business owners, small business owners. And when we have a question for each other, we're like, BT, we need a BT. And so we'll get together and have dinner and, you know, discuss it and come to a conclusion. But I think there's a lot more of people finding those little communities like that to solve problems and not being so insular about it.
The shared experience, and again, like not having that like walledness to what you're dealing with or what you're trying to do, you know, like.
And I think that's like, you know, that there were people on my team who would get really not frustrated with me, but they'd be like, I don't know if you should say you don't have a plan for this company. And I'm like, but I don't. you know, and I started to get obsessed a couple of years ago with Lewis and Clark. This sounds insane, but I swear it's going somewhere.
I want to know where we're going.
Okay.
I mean, as much as we can know without a plan.
Exactly. So. I know. They knew there was an ocean there, you know?
Yeah.
It's like they spent years getting to this ocean, but they had no idea how to get there. They had no idea what they were going to come up against. And I started thinking about their journey as a metaphor for my company, in that I read somewhere that along the way, everybody on the mission who didn't die, I guess, or maybe some that did, got things named after them. There was a mountain named after the dog. You know, it's like bodies of water got named. And at the end, everybody got to share in the success. And I thought that was really beautiful. So I think about like moving forward, just assembling. I don't know if I'll ever have full-time employees again. I think what I'd like to do is have a stable of freelancers. I'm looking for good communications talent. If anybody's out there that wants to talk, DM me. You know, I would love to build more of a network of communications professionals that I can outsource to as project directors. Mm-hmm. And I really want to work with, like I said, people in the design and fashion and like, you know, hospitality space more, spend more time on that. And but I also I realized this just last weekend, like I really am serious about like my favorite thing in the world to do is to shop for secondhand things, to antique and to thrift and to vintage shop. And I'm selling vintage clothing right now, which I have for almost 20 years, but I'm selling with Nikki Lane at High Class Hillbilly.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is so much fun. And it is just the joy. I love it so much. But I have on my website, which is thecallaway.com, the Callaway Collection, which was the name of my mother's antique business when I was little. So I copped that. And I'm selling home goods on there.
Okay.
And like, I'm trying to figure out how to do I got, you know, approached to do some design consulting. So I really would like for 50% of my business to be about that kind of creativity. And I'm putting it out there. I'm saying it publicly.
Yeah. Hey, world.
Yeah, hey world, I'm looking for design jobs. So I don't know, and moving forward, like I said, I know that there's something out there, and I think like the ocean that I'm moving toward, the Pacific Ocean for me, is just contentment and helping create community and positivity and connecting people. Connecting people is my other favorite thing in the world.
Yeah.
I'm very good at it. And, you know, and I don't know, I also think that like, saying that kind of thing, like I'm good at this. People for a long time there was shame about that, like you're bragging or something. But
I think
like,
in general there's difficulty in talking about yourself, and I think some of it is tied to like womanness too.
I agree with that.
You're demure and you're not braggadocious or
I agree with
anything like that. But it's a difficult thing to break. So it's really wonderful that you're breaking that and you're going to talk about things you're good at.
Yeah.
And you're going to, and like, you know, enough to bring people in who are better also. Totally. You know, like you said, you want to have a network of freelancers, which is it weird to like, to outsource work, or is it nice? Because like, I don't know,
God,
like, having your own business, it's very easy to want to have every hat.
Well, it's scary. And like, I am a control freak, I guess. I mean, that's a bad term, but like you know, I'm not a micromanager at all. I let people do their thing. Mm-hmm. Like we were launching a big project in New York today that Megan McNear, who's like my art director, she pretty much is owning. I have so little idea with what is actually happening up there right now, but you know, it's falling under the Callaway umbrella. And I totally trust Megan to represent my values. And so I think it's really finding people who I jibe with on those levels that I know I can trust and who aren't gonna like, you know, sully my name.
Sounds so daunting when you phrase it that way.
Sully my name, but like at the same time, know that they're just going to uphold the same values I have, which are you work hard. Mm-hmm. If you work hard and you're nice and you know you do what you say you're going to do, you're going to be fine. And that's been my entire career. And I have not had a plan, like I said, but amazing things have come to me and I've just taken the next path. So realizing it's taken a long time to do this and a lot of meds and a lot of therapy, but you know, just realizing that you're going to be okay. And if you work hard, the right things are going to come to you. It's going to happen.
I like the advice we've gotten today. Showing up, working hard, being nice, doing what you say you're going to do.
God,
I think that's
like
a really,
tenets.
solid ways to build it. So, I mean, after all of that advice, I guess we can go to see if there's any questions from our audience. So, chat world.
We have some questions.
Yeah.
This is the disembodied voice of Colin again.
I like that you go to radio.
If you're going to have a
man,
disembodied voice, it might as well be Colin.
I'm right over here with Will. Will, can we get our first question in an Australian accent, please?
We can sure do that, Colin. Now I'm trying to put on an Australian accent when I am Australian, which is crazy.
On top of the existing Australian
on top of the
accent.
existing Australian accent.
Yeah.
Dingoes eating babies.
Libby,
yes.
What mantra do you live by? Or is there something you recite that keeps you going when things are getting hard?
Oh God, I would love ideas on that. I would love to have a mantra like that. Like I don't really have one. I do have like the tenets I live by, which I just talked about. You know, it's like being kind, considering others in the equation always, working hard, and being a good friend. I don't know. Those are really my tenets. I wish I had like it'd be not, maybe I need to hire a branding firm to come up with a nice little tagline for my life for me. I would love to have something more concise, but it's really, those are the things I live by. Just like, I've never gone wrong by being nice and working hard. And that's all aspects of my life, you know.
Retweet. I like that answer, Libby.
Okay.
We have one more question. We are running up against time. We didn't leave enough time, but also people had put questions in the chat and then you guys just talked about them. So
good.
Yeah, that was nice.
Okay.
But a young man named Devin has a question for you.
Okay.
Yes, you mentioned that you like to shop for vintage clothing and things like that. Do you have a favorite decade that you like to look out for? I know the 70s are kind of having a moment right now.
Oh God,
what's your
the 70s
preference?
have always been my decade. I grew up in the 70s, and like I have really evocative memories of things my mom wore. My mom has great style. She had great clothes. Like I almost wore a dress of hers today. I inherited a lot of her clothes, but like I am on a mission to find some pieces of hers I remember, and they're all very peasant look, you know, like two of the outfits that I remember from her wearing when I was a kid were, one was a Ralph Lauren dress, the other was a Laura Ashley dress, high neck, like Edwardian collars with ruffles here. They were flannel and buttoned down the front with tucks, and kind of, she would cinch it with a turquoise belt and wear a squash blossom necklace and these amazing Italian boots. Like, just like the holy grail for me is finding this certain Ralph Lauren peasant dress, because it will be like finding my mother's dress from that era. And if she sold it in a yard sale or something.
Oh my God.
You know, with that, of course. And I've sold stuff in yard sales too.
Those visceral memories of outfits. I have a sweatshirt from when my mom was pregnant that I still wear a lot.
Oh, that's so awesome. Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But it reminds me of when I was a kid.
I know.
She would
I love
wear
it.
Now it's mine.
I love it.
So.
It's like, it's funny. My mom also wore Shalimar a lot. She didn't really wear it anymore, but like she did in the 70s. So like them coming home from parties smelling like cigarette smoke and Shalimar, that's kind of that fragrance is really makes me think of them. Getting a kiss and feeling the collar of the jacket, you know, of them smelling Shalimar.
Sensory
70s
memory.
all the way.
Yeah.
Perfect answer.
All right. I guess if we're running low on time, then we can say goodbye for the day. It's a very weird thing
I know,
to do.
right?
My first sign off. I wasn't prepared.
I'm
for
honored
it at
to be
all.
here for it.
It was absolutely wonderful to get to chat with you this morning. What a way to start the day.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for inviting me.
Well, if you ever have anything going on that you want to share with our community, we're happy to do so, because you're now
will.
part of our chosen family.
Exactly.
So,
thank you so much. I feel chosen. I feel like the chosen one.